Is this Broncos offense a sleeping giant that is just awaiting to be awoken? Like Admiral Yamamoto from Pearl Harbor style. Welcome into the Broncos Breakdown. That's got to be a record for the first and earliest World War II reference in a sports show. But we're going to talk about whether or not this Broncos offense truly is a sleeping giant with Russell Wilson, plus an interesting idea that came out about releasing Melvin Gordon. We'll break that down in the second half of the show. But let's talk about the more exciting element of today's show. Whether or not this team is a sleeping giant. The Broncos offense, after 3 weeks, averages 14.3 points per game. Partially due to the defense getting a safety. I mean, that's how rough it has been on offense, all right? I'm just going to give it to you guys straight. It has not been pretty. Not saying it can't become pretty, but it has not been so far. Now, some people have been commenting and tweeting and whatnot saying, this team gives me 2015 vibes. And we're going to compare the numbers of the 2015 Super Bowl eventual winning Broncos team after 3 games to the Broncos' first 3 games of 2020. But I know I have been a bit pessimistic, mostly because I fear this is not sustainable and it's not going to work against some better teams. But there are reasons to be optimistic, and this is more so for myself and maybe some other people out there. But Russell Wilson to Courtland Sutton, check. That is working. That is an awesome duo. I saw this sort of coming in terms of who would he prefer, Sutton or Judy. It kind of leaned towards Sutton during the preseason and training camp, and now we're definitely seeing it translate to the field. That is an awesome connection that hopefully is just going to get better and better as the weeks progress. Discipline improved. It was not difficult to improve because you gave up or had 25 penalties in the first 2 weeks, so the bar was already pretty low to get better, but it did indeed get better. There were not as many home false starts and delay of games, so that was a sign of progress, no doubt about it. And this team fought in week 3. After the win, apparently the vibes were bumping, the celebration, the champagne and whatnot was flowing in the locker room. And that shows this team has some grit in them. They're playing for one another. They're playing hard for their coach. They did not just, lay back and let the 49ers run all over them because San Francisco was frankly the better team for, 52 minutes of that game. But the Broncos stayed in it. Defense buckled down and kept fighting for their offense. And a lot of times, defenses will get frustrated if they keep giving their offense time and time again an opportunity and the offense doesn't cash in. Example, Jimmy Garoppolo pulls a Dan Orlovsky, safety, out of the back of the end zone. The Niners punted away. Here we go. Broncos pick up 2 points, go down the field, score a touchdown, and let's ride off into the sunset. Didn't happen that way. It was a 3-and-out. But the defense never gave up. Just continued to come up with big plays. Jonas Griffith with a huge interception to seal the win. So this team, they've got some fight. They've got some dog in them. They've got all those cliches you're looking for. It's only been 3 weeks, but we're seeing that. And I think a lot of that came through in the Sunday Night Football win. Now, here's the good/bad news. The upcoming schedule for the Broncos. They play teams that I think are scary on paper, but it's an 0-3 Raiders team. It's a Colts team that is maybe bouncing back after a horrible start to the season. They just knocked off the Chiefs at home, so it's hard to really make out what this Colts team is, if they're contenders or pretenders, right? And then week 7 at the Chargers just got their ass beat by the Jags. So if Herbert's not healthy, that could be a much more winnable game than people would have thought a couple weeks ago. I'm just trying to really buy myself into, we're not giving up. I know things are bleak on offense right now, but things can pick up. It's got to start with Russell Wilson. He is not the only person to blame. Is Russell Wilson blameless? No. He has missed throws. He has lost some touch to some of these passes. But it also doesn't help when his offensive line, and Garrett Bowles played his worst game, I thought, on Sunday night since, 2019. The penalty came back a little, the penalty bug, and then he was just getting worked. Now, this Broncos offensive line played a really tough 49ers defense. Let's not get lost on us here. But the drops certainly don't help. The offensive line with Cam Fleming, hopefully when you get Miners and Turner back, that can kind of boost morale and that can kind of raise and heighten some momentum for this team moving forward because they need really all the help they can get on offense. They can't afford to shoot themselves in the foot. Right now, they are not a well-oiled machine to overcome obstacles they lay out in front of them. So this is what I want to ask you guys. This is the pinned comment of today's show. So everyone watching right now, if a YouTube ad break comes on by, take advantage of it, go down to the pinned comment, and let me know this. What week does the growing pain excuse run out? Is it after week 4, week 5, right? At one point, is it, you know what? I'm tired of hearing about growing pains between Hackett and Russell. It's time to put up or shut up. Let me know what week. It's the pinned comment. Give me your reply down below. All right, moving on here. Next, is this 2022 team giving us 2015 team, which we know how that ended with a Lombardi trophy being hoisted. We're just going to go off some numbers right now because they're not the same team, right? It's a little unfair to compare a Von Miller team with Chris Harris and Brandon Marshall and Danny Trevathan and a whole bunch of other great players to this young and up-and-coming defense in a lot of ways, all right? So, before we do that, on yesterday's video, I said, everyone, go over to our Raiders Report by Chat Sports channel here and spam FLV, F the Raiders. And I want to give shout-outs to all of you that did. Let's go Broncos, Nathan Watson, Rod is an MVP here at the channel, Orange Crush, Bilerius Leons, Greatness, Matthew Frey, Watch Me, CFL3, John, Drew and Dragons, Daniel, Jacob, CTR channel, All Out Broncos, another legend here, Byron Lewis and Jair. Shout out to all of you guys. If you haven't already, if you want to get shout outs on the channel like everyone on screen just did, hit that big red button and subscribe. So let's talk about whether or not this 2022 team is like 2015, where the defense carried the offense win after win. I think there's some truth to that, but I don't think you should get drunk on this idea running around Broncos Twitter and whatnot of this is 2015 all over again. The defense is going to carry them, and it's going to be okay. Let's not sell this Broncos offense as short as it was in 2015. Allow me to illustrate. First, on the defense here, okay? Broncos defense on your left in 2015 compared to the Broncos defense so far through 3 games for both sides here. Less points allowed. Less yards allowed this year. Less passing yards allowed. Less rushing yards allowed. So by just the metrics here, first 3 games of 2015 versus first 3 games of 2020, the edge goes to the defense. It's offense where I think we might have a bit of a memory fog in terms of how bad or good the offense was in 2015. Through the first 3 games, that offense averaged 24.6 points per game. Now, Peyton was healthier at the beginning than he was at the end of the season, but across the board, the 2015 offense to start the season, not quite sure what your memory of it was, but just going off the numbers here, it wasn't half bad. It definitely needed a lot of help at the end of the season. When Peyton went down and Brock Osweiler came on to help, keep the ship afloat for those handful of games, it wasn't as bad as maybe we're making it out to be, which is why I don't like this analogy all that much, because if you want to compare them to 2015, the offense, they're scoring 10 less points per game. Defense, I don't know if they can make up for 10 fewer points per game. All right, next up on the show. Should Melvin Gordon be released? 3 fumbles in 3 games. He had 3 fumbles all of last season. He's already matched that number, and it's still September. We will dive into this idea proposed by Fansided in just a moment. But first, our proud sportsbook partner, BetUS, has an awesome deal for Broncos Country. When you go to chatsports.com/bet and use promo code Broncos125, they're going to give you an additional 125% deposit bonus. So let's say you put $100 in, they'll tack on an additional $125. Now, not going to necessarily advise you to go out and bet on the Broncos right now. It's a bit of a question mark. But I can tell you this much. Maybe just bet against the Raiders, which this week would be betting on the Broncos, because in week 2, the Raiders were 5.5-point favorites to the Cardinals. They lost. Week 3, 1-point favorites on the road against the Titans. They lost. And week 4 now, they open up as 2-point home favorites against the Broncos. If you want to ride the numbers and you want to fade the faders, by all means, make your picks at chatsports.com/bet, promo code Broncos125. Should George Paton be calling Melvin Gordon saying, after 2 years and change now, let's go our separate ways? Well, that's what FanSided believes. They flat out said the Broncos need to release Melvin Gordon. Now, Gordon has always had an issue with holding on to the football. But 3 fumbles in 3 games, that's a pretty quick way to get yourself out of a job. If you don't have good ball security, you won't have good job security, okay? Now, I don't think Melvin Gordon should be cut yesterday, but he is 1 fumble away, I think, from probably losing his job to Mike Boone. Because so far this season, he's got the only red zone touchdown, so he's got that working for himself. But 3 fumbles in 3 games, 1 coming at the goal line, that's just not going to get you a job for long here. Now, as a whole, when he was as a Denver Bronco in his career, 34 games played, 10 fumbles. The former first-round pick has always had an issue with holding onto the football. And that's all right-ish if you can make up for it in other ways. When you're a backup, I don't know what else you can really hold out your hat onto if you fumble every single game so far and you're the backup, right? You're not adding a lot to the table. Now, before we start comparing Javonte Williams and Melvin Gordon, because I do think Gordon does offer some value here in what he brings to this team. I just don't know if that value outweighs 3 fumbles in 3 games. I'll let you guys be the GM. Should the Broncos release Melvin Gordon? Simple Y for yes or N for no. Let me know what you're thinking down below. Now, when you compare this running back duo of Javonte Williams and Melvin Gordon, I think the overall better running back, kind of top to bottom, no doubter, it's Javonte Williams. Receiving-wise, coming out of the backfield, I give the edge to Williams. Now, goal line, I know Gordon fumbled, but so did Williams. I lean towards Melvin Gordon. He is just a better overall goal line back in terms of reading the offensive line, reading the holes, and just, when there's nothing there, going up and above, right? Finding a way to cross that goal line. And in terms of pass protection, I lean towards Melvin Gordon. And I think sometimes as a fan, you just think about rushing yards and rushing touchdowns and fantasy points. Pass protection is pretty important to coaches. They're going to pass the football a lot more than they're going to run it over an entire season. They want to make sure their quarterback stays healthy. If a running back cannot pick up a blitz, that's going to factor into their decision. And Melvin Gordon, I think, has the edge over Javonte Williams in that field. So, will the Broncos or should the Broncos move on from Melvin Gordon? I'm not going to stand up here and vouch for 25 to be on this team no matter what. I think he's probably 1 fumble away from getting the axe and them rolling with Mike Boone and seeing what he can do, because if you put the rock on the ground, you're not going to be on that football field for all that long. All right. Appreciate everyone for tuning into today's show. Thank you all for making us a part of your day. I'll see you all later with more Broncos news and rumors.